Hi, and welcome to Nevaeh's Nightmare. And on this episode, we are going to be covering the Flatwood Monster. The 1950s are considered by many to be the golden age of science fiction. Pulp novels and movies would feature strange beings that came from outer space to terrorize humanity. Many of these movies were often pretty bad, with monsters looking really cheesy. But one day in 1952, the small town of Flatwoods, West Virginia, got its own strange visit from a weird creature. This creature was known to some as the Braxton County Monster, but most of the world knows it by its other name, the Flatwoods Monster. On the evening of September 12th, 1952, three boys were outside playing when they noticed a bright light in the sky. They watched as the light came closer and closer to them and became a slow moving reddish sphere that hovered over them. They saw the sphere drop quickly below the crest of a hill and disappeared from the view. The boys could see that there was a bright glow shining from where the sphere came down, so they decided to investigate. The three boys were soon joined by others. These were Kathleen May, a beautician, her sons, and their two friends, Tommy Hire and Eugene Lemon, and his dog. As the group walked in to investigate, the dog ran off and disappeared from the view. The dog was then heard to bark ferociously and came running back to the group with his tail between his legs, terrified. The group noticed that there was a foul smelling odor that got stronger as they approached the top of the hill. They noticed that the smell seemed to come from a mist that covered the ground and made their eyes water. Eugene Lemon and another boy reached the top of the hill and they observed a large ball of fire sitting there to the right side. They soon noticed something else lurked off to the left. Kathleen May suggested to Eugene Lemon that he shine his flashlight on whatever was standing to the left of them. Eugene did, and what the group saw horrified them. They saw a tall, grotesque, and almost robotic looking creature that seemed to hover just off the ground. Its head was shaped like an ace of spades, and inside the head was a circle shaped window from which two beams seemed to look straight at them. As far as the group could tell, it didn't seem to have any arms or legs, but May later stated that it had small claw like hands. The creature then darted straight for the group as it made a horrifying hissing sound. As it glided towards them at a quick pace, the group panicked and began to run in different directions. Eugene Lemon actually fainted as the monster came at them, and the others had to quickly pick him up and drag him from the scene. Some of the group noticed that the being broke off its pursuit and headed straight back to the glowing ball down the hill. The police were called, and soon the whole town of Flatwoods was buzzing about what had just happened. A reporter from the Braxton Democrat newspaper, A. Lee Stewart, was on the scene only 30 minutes after the creature was encountered. He could tell that the witnesses were visibly shaken by what they had seen, and Stewart convinced Eugene Lemon to accompany him to the hillside where the monster was seen. Stewart noted that the foul and unusual odor still clung to the grass, that it had irritated his nose and throat. He returned later on in the morning, and in the daylight he saw skid marks going down the hill, indicating to him that a large object had indeed moved through here. Soon the press picked up the story and it went nationwide. It was soon given the name the Flatwoods Monster, and for a time the small town was flooded with reporters from all over the country. There was one reporter who was local to the area, Gray Barker, who wrote about the monster in an article for Fate magazine. More about Barker in a future episode. Because of Barker's article, the monster became a legend to high strangeness and UFO researchers. The Flatwoods Monster didn't happen in a vacuum. Later on, researcher Jerome Clark would find out that there were other events that took place in the area. Before the group encountered the monster, there were many people that saw strange lights and objects in the sky. One man witnessed a bright orange ball shoot through the sky, hover over the area the monster was later sighted, and then shoot off towards the local airport. A week before the events at Flatwoods, an unnamed woman and her mother were driving to church when they encountered a similar looking monster. They stated that the creature emitted a foul smelling odor, and the woman was so frightened by what she saw, she had to go to the hospital. It seemed like they had indeed encountered the same creature as the group would meet late a week later. After this, nothing like the Flatwoods Monster was seen again until 1973 when a woman in Quebec saw something similar gazing at her through a window in her home. Her husband went to investigate, finding only a dog that was utterly terrified. What was the Flatwoods Monster? Was it a creature from another world, or is there a more down to earth explanation for what was seen on September 12th, 1952? One explanation put forward by skeptic Joe Nickel was that what was seen was actually a large barn owl. Nickel states that the barn owl does indeed have a head shaped like an ace of spades, but he attributes the confusion on whether the monster had arms or legs as being the result of an owl gripping onto a tree when its legs weren't visible. Nickel's theory is that the group saw a meteor in the sky and then an airplane passing overhead. These two sightings installed fear into the group, and by the time they got down the hill, they encountered the owl and mass hysteria took over. They believed the owl was a monster and panicked. So much of this really doesn't hold up. First, you would think that people have lived all their lives in a rural area and they would recognize an owl. Second, Nichols' theory doesn't explain the foul odor that seemed to linger on the site. There is another more intriguing possibility as to the origins of the Flatwoods Monster, that it was a device used in psychological warfare. During World War II, the British Army was experimenting with a new and interesting way to fool the enemy. One of these experiments was a set of tall scarecrows that were set up outside of villages in the Sicilian countryside. They were reported to be 12 feet tall, like the Flatwoods Monster. They moved on their own power and made frightening flashes and bangs. Many of the villagers saw these scarecrows and thought the devil was coming for them with the British army behind them. Perhaps the Flatwood Monster was simply an updated version of the scarecrow used to experiment by the US military to see how people would react. Whatever the origins of the Flatwoods Monster, its sightings has had a great impact on popular culture. It is one of the best known cryptids, and there have been numerous books and documentaries made about it. It's even shown up in video games like Everybody's Golf 4 and Fallout 76. It also helped the economy of the town of Flatwoods with the festival there and also a museum in the nearby town of Sutton. This tells the story of the monster and sells figurines, shirts, and toys, and Flatwoods Monster is a big business. Thank you so much for watching my channel. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you think about the Flatwoods Monster in the comments below.